Hello. I did my article on depression and its subtypes, possibly being seen through functional magnetic resonance imaging paradigm. So, the title of my article is Neuroactivity in Relation to Empirically Derived Personality Syndromes in Depression Using a Psychodynamic fMRI Paradigm. Okay, so according to this article and the World Health Organization, depression is one of the most popular diseases across the globe. This means that it is a major public health issue and should have the attention and research it deserves. There are many types of depression, such as major depressive disorders, dysthymia, double depression. There are only minor differences in the clinical features, the family history, and treatment responses within these diseases. But there's obviously a difference between each patient with depression. No patient presents the same, even if they both have major depressive disorders. Current research being done has not been able to show these differences within the brain. They've only been studying the fact that, yes, the patient is depressed. So these researchers wanted to be able to subtype depression and see if particular spots of the brain light up with the similar type. The participants in this study were 20 unmedicated patients that were in the middle of a major depressive episode during recruitment. 18 of the 20 patients have been included in a previous report that compare patients with controls. These patients were in a psychoanalytic institute, so they weren't just majorly depressed, untreated, and running free. And they were diagnosed by 2 trained clinicians using the structured clinical interviews according to the DSM-5. The treatment, medication, therapies, and presenting illness of these patients differed, further proving that depression is not just the same right across the board. To begin the research, the researchers used a SWAP 200, which has 200 clinical statements that must be sorted into a fixed distribution in order to obtain data. So for the clinical statements, they focused on coping and defense mechanisms while the patient was going through their depressive phase. So the statements went from like tends to abuse drugs to tends to be conflicted about authority. They feel like they must rebel. They feel sad when their human companion leaves them, or they feel nothing at all. And the patients had to rank whether they felt that this statement described them well, a little bit, or not at all. Statements selected focused on a relationship versus personality issues, or depressive personality versus emotional hostile externalizing personality. The statements were delivered to the patient during their fMRI session. They were lying on the scanner, and the sentence was presented through a projector onto a mirror. When the patient emotionally reacted, his oxygen levels were observed using a Magnetum Allegra head scanner. During this head scan, the whole brain was analyzed, and they found that the second factor, the emotional hostile externalizing personality, was the only one with a positive correlation where 4 of the same regions of the brain lit up, which was a large cluster in the right orbital frontal cortex, the left ventral striatum, a small cluster in the left temporal pole, and another small cluster in the right middle frontal gyrus. So this meant that each patient with that personality disorder lit up in just the same spots of the brain. They found that the people with emotional hostile externalizing personality disorder correlated with relatively higher activity in areas such as emotion processing, evaluation of reward and punishment, negative cognitions, depressive pathology, and social knowledge. So this shows that the brain is able to tell us even down to the subtype of depression.